But first, today marks 5 months since the devastating EF4 tornado ripped through the heart of Tuscaloosa. Good evening, I'm Philip Coleman. Lynn Brooks has the evening off on assignment. The death toll for Tuscaloosa County remains at 51 from the largest single-day tornado outbreak in Alabama history. WVUA's Matt McCoy joins us now live in the studio with how Tuscaloosa and West Alabama are coming along 5 months later. Matt.
Thanks, Philip. In the wake of the tornado, Tuscaloosa formed a committee to create a plan for the future of the city. Earlier this month, the Tuscaloosa City Council approved the Tuscaloosa Forward Plan, but not without resistance from some members of the community. The plan is just a vision at this point. The City Council must vote on any ordinance stemming from the plan. That includes a proposed walking and biking path stretching from one end of the city to the other, over McFarland Boulevard and 15th Street.
In order to do that, it's going to take a lot of funding, so we're actively seeking some federal grant money to start that process. And most particularly, we'd like to go ahead and look into getting the pedestrian bridges that would help link the greenway as it goes over major roadways.
In less than 30 minutes, a class to educate the public about severe weather will get underway at the University of Alabama. It's a part of the Storm Spotters training put on by the National Weather Service. As the threat of the secondary severe weather season gets closer, the National Weather Service wants you to have multiple ways of getting information about severe weather.
We're encouraging people to have multiple sources of information. If I hear the siren and I get something buzzing on my belt at the same time, I've got confirmation right there and I need to go to my safe place.
That class begins at 6:30 at the Bryant Conference Center and is open to the public. And if you're interested in seeing the full Tuscaloosa Forward plan, then check out the Tuscaloosa Forward website at tuscaloosaforward.com. You can also see what building permits the city has issued since the storm. There's also a link to that on our website, WVUATV.com. Philip?
All right, thanks, Matt. Now, in other news, today, U.S. Congresswoman Terry Sewell was in Tuscaloosa talking about some of the issues facing the state of Alabama and the nation. Sewell was at the Indian Hills Country Club speaking to the Rotary Club of Tuscaloosa and the Chamber of Commerce of West Alabama. Sewell spoke about President Obama's new jobs bill, as well as the threat of many post offices closing. Also, with so many natural disasters this year, what about federal disaster aid funding? WVUA spoke with Congresswoman Sewell to find out if Alabama would be affected by the dwindling disaster funds.
I know it's a class of only 9. When emergencies hit, we need to make sure that our funding is there. And it doesn't need to be offset. My problem with the House version was that it had an offset in it. I don't think that you can offset emergency funding. We have to act immediately. That's why it's called an emergency. So I'm very happy that the Senate version adequately funds FEMA, and it also has no offset.
And Terry Sewell was elected during the year of 2010. She's the first African-American woman to represent Alabama in the U.S. Congress, and she is a native of Selma, Alabama. The University of Alabama gymnastics team gave back to the community that's been supporting them for years. The team delivered school supplies to University Place Elementary School students who were most affected by April storms. The gymnasts met with 20 children ranging from pre-kindergarten to the 5th grade. The students delivered gifts and supplies and were very excited to receive them. The University of Alabama gymnastics coach, Sarah Patterson, says giving back to children in this way warms her heart.
Walk in here and you see children that have absolutely nothing, lost everything, are still displaced from their homes. I think it makes it all real, and certainly this has been the highlight of my week or my month already.
Like getting lots of gifts, like Mr. Potato Head.
Now, the team also gave out some of those favorite board games, as we just said, like Candyland. Now, in other news, WVUA is covering Montgomery, where the deadline for the ruling on Alabama's immigration law is quickly approaching. The law was supposed to take effect earlier this month, but now is on hold until a federal judge, Sharon Blackburn, rules if the law is constitutional, and that ruling is expected to come down tomorrow. Many people have called this law one of the toughest immigration laws in the country. It requires employers to use a system to check the immigration status of potential employees, and even has stipulations against giving a ride to someone who's known to be an illegal immigrant. Now, continuing our coverage in Montgomery, a Republican state senator has written legislation based on the Kaylee Anthony case in Florida. It would make it a felony to fail to notify the authorities promptly that a child is missing or dead. This Alabama bill would make it a felony punishable by up to 12 years in prison for a parent or guardian to fail to report a child aged 12 or younger missing within 24 hours. And this state senator hopes to have this bill passed during the legislative session that's coming up in February. All eyes were on Arab, Alabama this past weekend after a controversial decision to stop the official pregame prayer. School officials for Arab, which is in Marshall County, Alabama, stopped prayers after receiving complaints. Officials decided to go with a moment of silence in place of the prayer. But many in the community were not happy with the school's decision, so fans brought signs in support of the prayers to the game. And when the moment of silence came, hundreds of people stood in the stands and began reciting the Lord's Prayer together out loud. Also, the Arab City Schools stopped the prayer after a letter was sent from a Wisconsin-based Freedom from Religion Foundation with a complaint from an unidentified parent.